So let's start. So let's start with this 10 minutes speaking. Okay. Anyway, let's do it. Let's go. Let's go. Let's say you have a few people speaking, right? So you're about to go down on the stage and you feel anxiety. The usual default state of someone who doesn't want to have experience is to just find it out is want to if I have to worry about experiencing anxiety is kind of just by mere thought of what you have to do. Then once you feel the butterflies, you you avoid them, right? You contract your mind contracts around your conversation with yourself is an happy one. It's like the 100% kind of like I can see the people who do this all the time. They're relaxed, I'm happy. Where am I? And you're talking to yourself, you're not noticing because the thought just come up behind you as fast as they can. And they seem to be you, not identify with the thought and marks in consciousness. And most your little lies are thought there's no alternative. We're not given a rule book. Human mind, right? So there's no place in normal education where we are always indicated that's the alternative here, and so we kind of stumble out into our adulthood. More or less, somebody we always had in mind we have, and that really there's no the only thing we can do to really upgrade our firmware. New content we can read books, we can develop interest, but there's nothing at a sort of root level of our emotion creative radical change. If you have anxiety, yeah, actually on which you can just feel it, right? And be actually indifferent to it or anything else you could be feeling. I mean, just notice there's even a unpleasant sensation, but first you can notice the anxiety is if that unpleasant. Unpleasant is so close to excitement, and it's also physiology that really the difference between excitement and anxiety is more or less just the deforming the story thing yourself. If you felt these tingles, and stuff like authorized response right before you know about this roller coaster, like why you going a roller coaster to that experience, right? In fact, you feel that way. We're about to have an interview, in rush to go to stage. That intolerable, right? Just dropping back and realizing the power of reframing is again this skill that is a very artistic one, but now maybe people are learning it. The secret style. Most what people want care about can be thought of as a skill, right? I mean, well-being is a skill, not suffering. Unnecessarily, it is a skill. Noticing your emotional life and regulated negative emotion is a skill. We want to begin practicing mindfulness, just learning to pay close attention to the nature of your experience. Adding anything you experience, you just not noticing your time to be moment to moment. But in a way that is not reactive, you're not grasping the unrest and pushing 100% away, just a story of telling yourself story thinking, and you can either become more and more mindful of that interrupted more and more. You can reframe this continually and you tell yourself a better story. Or you can actually just engineer. You can change the code that you're running moment to moment. A sort of use of negative imagination where you can all think of all the bad things that haven't happened to you. So just you're stuck in traffic, driving to a job that you don't like, and you're frustrated. You can think of all the things that could happen to you, right? That happened. And if only one of them happened to you, you could consider your prayers answered if you could just be returned to this moment. And you could again to today's go when you find out that you got 2 months to live, right? The next 2 months you just been unwinding your worldly affairs. You're not for the guy, right? But it hasn't happened to you yet. That's just more thinking, but yeah, but for fact, you can reframe your experience in a way that just exchange anything material when you can let it light in. And many techniques like that are just a matter of evoking those full concepts skillfully. So picture this you're in an airplane and it began to bounce. And even those who aren't necessarily afraid to fly can feel anxious in significant turbulence. Now, why do we feel anxious? Well, we have some thoughts that turbulence might be dangerous, right? That makes it more likely the plane will crash. And of course, surely significant turbulence can cause a plane to crash. This, as we know from the statistics for plane crashes, is a very, very rare thing. So now, unless you are in that rare and horrible experience of being actually thrown around the cabin as soon as you get injured, the fact like that in pouncing is not physically painful, rather you're not being harmed by its sensation, and in a context you should project yourself to even more bothered bouncing and not be worried about it all. You might go somewhere like the amusement park, which exerts real force on your bodily, and you do it because you're seeking the experience out. And an airplane is totally unwelcome to you, but you just take the raw situation and not your problem. It's what they pretend. It's the interpretation of them that worries you. There's at least two levels which you can deal with it. First is to think conceptually about the nature of problems and about what you fear. Is it rational to worry that your plane will crash? Is it experiencing turbulence? No. It isn't the likelihood of dying in a plane crash. A minuscule. Over the course of your journey, you should begin to worry to leave the airport and get in an Uber or taxi or drive yourself home in your own car. So, if you understand that, if you understand that every moment in the plane is in fact safer, the moments you spend on the ground suddenly safer than when you're working as a pedestrian fixated on your smartphone and stepping into the crosswalk. That's when your adrenaline is so charged. Those are the moments where the sweat should begin beating up on your forehead. Sweaty blend, and it began to bounce. It is in fact unreasonable to worry that bouncing means much of anything. If you understand that, that's all can have an effect. You can become willing to just experience the raw sensation of turbulence. Then you can cease to interpret the experience as a sign of actual danger. There's a level which you can address this, and these are totally compatible moves, and I recommend one of them is to become mindful of the feeling of anxiety itself. What is it? And what does it mean? It's just sensation, just a product of energy in your body, and it actually doesn't mean anything at the level of raw sensation. You might have thoughts about it, and well, likely much of your thinking in your prime moments purpose toward checking out how to know to feel it that way, not to let it get worse. But if you tip out your thoughts and just become willing to feel the raw sensation of anxiety, as you just surrender your secret system to it, just feel it as energy. It can lose its meaning if it become very difficult to distinguish from what in not under level framing would be a positive experience like excitement. How do you know the difference between being anxious about something that's about to happen and being excited? For the most part, it is the thoughts you're thinking when you feel that arousal. There's a cognitive, conceptual overlay on top of this raw feeling. You can constantly reframe the things, or you can step out of it altogether and feel the raw energy of its experience. And when you do that, anxiety can be like any other experience that has no meaning for you as person really isn't saying anything about you. So let's say you have a rash on your elbow and it's itching. Okay, that doesn't say anything deep about you as a person. That has no physiological implication. Maybe unpleasant, it might be extraordinary unpleasant, but doesn't mean reach into your sense of who you are. The deepest way to respond to anxiety And again, I'm not saying that there's no case in which drugs are valuable or even necessary. As many very well be, but for anxiety, it is more on range. The deep way to respond to it is to become willing to feel it, to cease to interpret it as important and to function in the midst of it. And then you will pass anxiety rises and falls to any other emotion and you're not continually thinking the thoughts that make you anxious. Actually, you can't stay around for long. It is true of other unpleasant emotions like anger, sadness, and they are continually disrupted by our thoughts. And we are spending most of our time thinking without knowing that we are thinking. So mindfulness in particular is a very good antidote to this problem. But the trick is you can't apply it as an antidote. You can't be mindful of anxiety so that it will go away. Become willing to feel it. Just let it burn bright in you and discover that as it doesn't matter, it simply comes and goes and you can functional. Alright, so that is the end of this 10 minute speaking. See you in the 30 minute speaking. Alright, bye.